Hello, everybody, and welcome to Star Trek Online. This is a very special occasion, which is why I felt I wanted to go ahead and make a video about this. This is not really a gameplay video, this is more just kind of a let's celebrate the history of this incredible franchise for a very special occasion. For those of you who may not be aware, and I just recently found this out, like yesterday, apparently September 6th is considered Star Trek Day. And the reason for that is because that was the day that Star Trek, the original series, first debuted on television. Whether or not it was the actual pilot or not, because there's very fascinating behind-the-scenes information about how things were created in production in a certain order to tell a cohesive continuity story somewhat, even though they really weren't thinking that far ahead or planning that far ahead, because they were just trying to do what they can to actually just get on the air or even stay on the air. But also, they had multiple pilots, and what was actually shown on TV was not really based on when the episode was made. Some episodes took longer to film than others, so ones that were made quicker were shown on TV sooner than the others because they were already ready to go. They were done being filmed, so quick, let's get on TV. It was a very difficult time for them during the late 60s. Of course, that wasn't really when the show was getting immediate popularity and such, even though there was a bit. But it wasn't until a decade later, basically, when the show was being shown in reruns on syndication, that's when it really gained its popularity. Which led to some more great stuff, including, of course, some of the movies. Now, this is... I guess you could... That was back in, I believe, 1966. So I guess if we were to do the math, that would make it... Like, in 2006, that would have made it 40 years. So this would be about this 36th year anniversary. Or no, I have that wrong. I'm totally wrong on that. I'm sorry. The 56th? Yeah. The 56th year anniversary. Sorry. I was thrown off by the number because there's another anniversary going on for Star Trek, and that is the 40th anniversary for many consider to be one of the best Star Trek movies of all time, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, which we had an event at the movie theater I work at last night showing that via Turner Classic Movies, where they had the guy who hosts that share some extra stuff. I took my parents to see it. We had a great time. We actually had a good crowd, a good-sized crowd, which was also pretty lively, reacting to the movie. It was pretty great, really fun experience. And for me, that was also great because I recall seeing this movie a long time ago, like maybe when I was a kid, but I could barely remember it. Same thing with a couple of the other Star Trek movies. I think I've seen 3 and 4, but I barely remember them. Which is why I want to see them again now as an adult, so I can actually better retain them. I'll admit, I got choked up last night. For those of you who know what happens at the end of that movie, with Spock dying and such, during the funeral when Kirk got all choked up. Credit to Shatner. That got me choked up, his eulogy there. But it was a fun experience. And to celebrate Star Trek Day, Star Trek Online has a special museum here celebrating the history of Star Trek, which can get you a title and an accolade as well. And this is something that you can check out either at the Earth Space Dock, which is where we currently are at, or if you go to Deep Space Nine. And you get this little notice here from Federation President Okek. Citizens of the Federation and their allies, it is my honor to introduce the official Starfleet Ships of the Line Museum. This undertaking, made possible by the help of so many of you, is to educate the galaxy at large about the history of some of the greatest ships to serve in Starfleet, and allow you to look at full-size replicas of the ships, lovingly recreated and restored. Please take your time and peruse this look back at our history. I know that I myself have already spent several days staring in wonder at these pieces of the past, preserved and revived for this day. After one standard Earth week, the exhibit will move to several museums and galleries around the galaxy, but it will be visible once a year above Earth Space Dock and Deep Space Nine on this most important date. So they didn't make it hard for you. You'll see the little blue arrows there. You'll see them lined up around, all around Earth Space Dock here. Now it starts from over here, and then you make your way to the left. So we are going to. Again, I'm in a tier 6 ship, and yet when I have mine right here, kind of lined up against some of these other ships in the fleet, it looks small, especially compared to that big sucker right there. Like, I said it before, the last time I did a video about this game, when we took a look at this game, there are some huge ships. Of course, there's a Federation cruiser right there, which is basically the same, a similar one to, well, that one over there. But we'll get there. In fact, I should start turning. I just got distracted by all the other big ships in this dock over here that I forgot. We're supposed to go over here. So I already did this on my TOS captain I currently have, so I'm doing this on my current Starfleet captain. Since it's supposed to get an accolade plus a title, so I figure I may as well go ahead and do it for him. Also, from what I heard, because this is basically a TOS celebration, it also advertised that currently there are sales for items that are having to do with, you can see here, 23rd century, basically stuff from the TOS era. A number of these things are on sale now, including the command tunic. I want to grab this and put it on my captain that I basically modeled up to Kirk, basically to make him stand out and show that he is, of course, the captain of his ship. It's like, it always, if you're curious, I'm currently watching the original series. I'm about, I guess, maybe halfway through season 2. I'm at the episode Mirror Mirror. I'm watching these in production order, not the actual order that they debuted on television. So I finished the Apple, and now I'm gonna watch Mirror Mirror, and so that's where I'm currently at watching the show. And of course, I've seen Kirk wear this particular tunic several times already, and it's a nice way to have him stand out. Apart from the gold one, since in this game, if you're wearing a gold from the TOS era, that would mean that you're part of the tactical division. Whereas this one makes it more stand out that, no, this is more so reserved specifically for the captain. And of course, there's some of the other dress uniforms in that era. There's the medical uniform. It's unfortunate that, of course, a lot of these are in the store, but, hey, yeah. The torn uniforms. Here's the uniform from the movie Wrath of Khan. I wasn't sure if I had this or not, but I'll probably grab this because, yeah, these. After watching the movie last night, Wrath of Khan, which that was so great. Khan is, it's especially because of the performance of Ricardo Montalban. Oh, he was so good, so fantastic. I'm so glad they got him to come back after Space Seed. And so interesting to learn about some more about the behind the scenes about this, since this took place basically as, it's funny, they said 15 years within the story of the movie, and yet it also, I think, took place 15 years later in real life. So everyone looks 15 years older. Just a nice little extra tidbit. This is a uniform from the first movie, the motion picture. I don't recall actually having watched this yet. I think I saw Nostalgia Critic's little review on it, which had a funny parody for the Wrath of Khan speech scene with him and Angry Joe. But I'll watch this once I'm done watching the original series. I want to watch things in order. Vulcan Ambassador. So yeah, these are things that are on sale currently for this special event if you want to grab them. So if you want some TOS apparel for your captains, including the one from the movies, I would say go ahead and feel free to grab them. Anyways, let's get started on this little tour of the museum, shall we? And we, of course, have to start off with the one that started it all. The USS Enterprise, NCC 1701. Space, the final frontier. The most celebrated starship of her time, the Constitution-class Enterprise had over 40 years in service to Starfleet. Most of that time, including her celebrated 5-year mission from 2265 to 2270, was under the command of James Tiberius Kirk. Besides her initial mission goals of seeking out new life and new civilizations, the Enterprise assisted many in need throughout the galaxy, and defended the Federation from threats such as Khan Nguyen Singh. In her final flight, she was commandeered from Starfleet by her most famous captain and crew before being destroyed over the Genesis planet. Noble crew members James T. Kirk, Spock, Leonard McCoy, Montgomery Scott, Hikaru Sulu, Nyota Uhura, and Pavel Chekhov. Star Trek aired on September 8th, 1966 to June 3rd, 1969. So I guess actually it was yesterday. I had that wrong. I thought it was September 6th because that's when this event started. So I thought that meant that September 6th was the beginning of the event, but I guess that's just, or I thought the beginning of the event signified the actual Star Trek day, but I guess it was actually September 8th. My bad. So, anyways, yeah, so this was the ship that was shown in the original series. So, without the original series, none of us would be here today. The iconic show aired for just 3 seasons in the late 60s, having been saved from cancellation several times by fan campaigns. However, when the show moved to syndication, its popularity exploded, leading to 6 feature films with the original cast. The show has inspired people from all walks of life, including scientists who cite Star Trek as the inspiration for inventions like the cell phone. I mean, anytime you see Kirk pull out the communicator, Kirk here, Kirk to Enterprise. It's no wonder that from that we got the cell phone. Salute to the ship that started it all. The Enterprise. There are other ships that may carry on the name of Enterprise, but that, let's be honest, that will always be the Enterprise. Even though this next one also did an excellent job of carrying that same name. It's a different type of ship, but it carried the name proudly. You all know it from Star Trek, The Next Generation. Let's make sure history never forgets the name. Enterprise. The 5th ship to bear both the Enterprise name and her iconic 1701 registry, the Enterprise D is an iconic piece of Federation history. Led by the principles of Captain Jean-Luc Picard, this legendary vessel ventured into a galaxy much changed since the original NCC-1701 had gone on her 5-year mission. During her time among the stars, the Enterprise D was present a part of many major historical events, including the first encounters with both the Q Continuum and the Borg. Without the dedication of her brave crew, many more lives would likely have been lost in these incidents. Notable crew members, Jean-Luc Picard, William Riker, Beverly Crusher, Worf, Data, Geordi LaForge, Deanna Troi, Wesley Crusher, Catherine Pulaski, and Tasha Yar. Star Trek The Next Generation aired from September 20th, 1987 to May 23rd, 1994. 176 episodes. If the original series is the point from which all Star Trek originates, The Next Generation was the franchise's first great test. While the movies with the cast of the original series were popular in cinemas, the idea of creating a sequel to the show with all new characters was a bold one that could have fallen flat on its face. Thankfully, Gene Roddenberry chose an excellent cast and an amazing group of writers to carry on his legacy. Because of the success of TNG, Star Trek lives on. So, they owe a lot to this particular ship and the success of TNG. Which you can acquire, this ship, if you reach, I believe, level 30. If you level your commander or your captain to level 30, you then can be able to select this particular ship if you'd like. Next up on the list, the USS Defiant NX-74205. We are explorers. We explore our lives day by day. Forgive me, some of these quotes I do not know. Like, I haven't gotten to that point yet in my little catch-up of trying to learn about Star Trek. So I don't, like the other quotes I've actually heard, like the one Picard said about from TNG. I've seen that clip, and I've heard others parody that quote. Some of these other ones I have not, so forgive me if I don't perfectly recollect how the quote is said, or the voice, because I would if I knew. We are explorers. We explore our lives day by day, and we explore the galaxy, trying to expand the boundaries of our knowledge. And that is why I am here. Not to conquer you with weapons or with ideas, but to coexist and learn. The Defiant Class project was begun in 2366 as a response to the increased Borg threat to the Federation. This tough little ship was Starfleet's first real attempt at a warship, with almost no scientific equipment on board. Ultimately, she did not pass her trials, and the project was put on hold until Commander Benjamin Sisko, a member of the Defiant team, asked for her to be assigned to Deep Space Nine to hold off the threat of the Dominion. From there, she served with distinction in the Dominion War, and remained in service until her destruction in 2375. The USS Sao Paulo was assigned to Deep Space Nine and renamed the Defiant in her name. Notable crew members: Benjamin Sisko, Jadzia Dax, Ezri Dax, Worf, Julian Bashir, Miles O'Brien, Kira Nerys, Nog, Odo, Quark, Jake Sisko as honorary. If I mispronounce some of these names, forgive me. Again, I have not reached some of these shows. I plan to at some point later on. So it looks like Deep Space Nine came on after TNG because it aired on January 3rd, 1993 and went till June 2nd, 1999 with 173 episodes. Star Trek Deep Space Nine is one of the most beloved series in Star Trek's history, and with good reason, introducing some of Trek's most memorable characters and a deeper, more nuanced look at Federation society. DS9 told some unforgettable stories. The impact of its sterilized style can still be felt today in modern Star Trek television. I have heard wonderful things about DS9. Now that looks like another version of the Enterprise over there. Of that particular Constitution cruiser over there. This is one of the reasons I like coming to Earth Space Talk. It's so great seeing all these very different kinds of ships. Obviously, I love to collect some of these, but, you know, I'm going to have to wait for some of the prizes to drop in the store, I guess. The USS Voyager, NCC 74656. In a region where shifting allegiances are commonplace, we have to have something stable to rely on. And we do. The principles and ideals of the Federation. The USS Voyager holds the distinction of the starship that explored the most unknown space during the course of her voyage. Although this was not her intended mission, during the mission to secure the Maquis terrorists on board the Valjean, the ship encountered a being known as the Caretaker and was thrust 70,000 light-years into the Delta Quadrant. For 7 years, under the more than capable command of Catherine Janeway, the crew searched for a way to return to the Alpha Quadrant and their loved ones, finally succeeding in 2378. The scientific and anthropological data brought back from her voyage was instrumental to the Federation's understanding of the varied species and locals of the Delta Quadrant, knowledge that is still referenced to this day. Janeway, Tuvok, Chakotay, Harry Kim, Tom Paris, 7 of 9, B'Elanna Torres, The Doctor, Neelix, Kez. Star Trek Voyager aired on January 16, 1995 till May 23, 2001, 168 episodes. Star Trek Voyager was the first Star Trek television show to star a female Starfleet captain. During its 7-year run, it returned to the original Star Trek model of exploring a completely unknown part of space. The show is also notable for its deeper dive into one of Star Trek's iconic enemies, the Borg, providing new layers and details to that terrifying alien race. It also starred the actress who plays Janeway, and she plays Flemeth in Dragon Age. That was actually my first exposure to this actress, was playing Dragon Age and hearing her voice as Flemeth. And it wasn't until later I found out that she played Janeway in Voyager. So let's just say that I'm looking forward to seeing her play Janeway, even though I've heard some people have mixed feelings about Voyager. It doesn't seem to be as beloved as some of the other ones. At least that's how it comes across to me anyway. The USS Enterprise NCC 1701E. The line must be drawn here, this far, no farther. After the destruction of the Enterprise D in 2371, this Sovereign-class vessel was rechristened in her honor and launched as the Enterprise E. The crew of the previous Enterprise was transferred over mostly intact and continued to serve under the command of Jean-Luc Picard. Sleeker and arguably more powerful than her predecessor, the Enterprise E served with distinction in several major Starfleet crises, including the Borg invasion of Earth's past, the conflict with the Sona, the battle with the Romulan Shinzon. Picard, Riker, Crusher, Worf, Data, Geordi, and Troy. This was the ship in the movies First Contact, Insurrection, and Nemesis. The crew of Star Trek The Next Generation became the second Starfleet crew to receive their own series of movies, beginning with Star Trek Generations in 1994. The Enterprise E is the first ship in Trek to replace her predecessor with a completely new class. The TNG movies are a legacy of the impact that Picard and his crew had on pop culture. I'll have to keep a lookout for that particular ship to add it to my collection. I mean, is it so bad I want to collect the ships of the shows and movies? Is that such a bad thing? It's like how I want to collect mounts in WoW. It's like, why would it be different for me to want to collect ships? Ah, now this is almost the same ship as the original, except this is from the J.J. Abrams movies. The USS Enterprise NCC 1701 Kelvin Timeline. Your father was captain of a starship for 12 minutes. He saved 800 lives, including your mother's and yours. I dare you to do better. The ship you are viewing is a replica of a ship from an alternate universe. During the destruction of Romulus, Ambassador Spock and a Romulan terrorist, known as Nero, were pulled into a black hole and transferred back in time to 2233. Nero's ship, the Narada, engaged with the USS Kelvin, creating a branching timeline that resulted in many changes from the history we know. Knowledge of this universe, including this alternate version of the historic Enterprise, was gained during the Sphere Builder incident in 2410. Notable crew members: Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Scott, Sulu, Uhura, Chekhov, and 0718. This was the ship in all three of those movies, 2009, Into Darkness, and Beyond. The Kelvin Timeline films were an alternate retelling of the history of the classic original series. In order to retell the story with a modern sensibility, the decision was made to set the films in an alternate universe. A brilliant decision that allowed new actors, sets, and stories, while still connecting to the original Star Trek continuity. A young cast took over the classic roles from the original series and played them to perfection. I'm sure some may debate that, but whatever. I've heard plenty say that they thought Quinto was a fantastic succession as Spock to Nimoy. And I've heard, even though some people have issues with Into Darkness, Cumberbatch, I've heard, was fantastic as Khan. Spoilers, he's Khan in Into Darkness. The N601 Enterprise. We'll find a way through this, but I won't leave anyone behind. Not if I can help it. I can't try to save humanity without holding on to what makes me human. In 2151, before the Federation had even been formed, the first Starfleet ship to bear the name Enterprise was launched. She was the first ship capable of going Warp 5, a huge leap forward technologically. This experimental new ship was meant to be on a test run, until an encounter with a Klingon changed everything. Under the command of Jonathan Archer, she served with distinction until 2161, when she was retired with full honors. During her historic voyage in the stars, she was instrumental in protecting humanity from many threats, including the Xindi weapon. Noble crew members: Jonathan Archer, T'Pol, Charles Tucker III, Malcolm Reed, Travis Mayweather, Hoshi Sato, and Phlox? I'm sure I'll learn when I watch. This was the ship in Star Trek Enterprise. Aired September 26, 2001 till May 13th, 2005. 97 episodes. The last show to carry the Star Trek banner for 12 years, Enterprise told the story of one of the least explored areas in Star Trek history, the time before the founding of the Federation. This low-tech character-focused take on Star Trek boldly went into the future of television, refusing to let the torch burn out. It is remembered for its excellent take on classic Star Trek series and for its depiction of events that led to the formation of the United Federation of Planets. Up next, there's about, I think, 5 left here. The USS Discovery, NCC 1031. The only way to defeat fear is to tell it no. No, we will not take shortcuts on the path to righteousness. We will not break the rules that protect us from our basest instincts. No, we will not allow desperation to destroy moral authority. With her exploits only recently rediscovered after years of the highest classification, the USS Discovery is an important part of Federation history that we are only just learning about. It was discovered that one of her captains, Gabriel Lorca, had been replaced by his counterpart from the Mirror Universe during the Prior's World incident. After his removal from command, the Discovery was instrumental in ending the First Federation Klingon War and in stopping the threat of the rogue AI known as Control. The ship then disappeared into the far future, where all of her recorded history has been lost, or rather, hasn't happened. Yet. Dun dun dun! It's a mainstay in Star Trek, you have to do it. Notable crew members: Gabriel Lorca, Saru, Michael Burnham, Paul Stamets, Ellen Landry, Ash Tyler, Hugh Culber, Sylvia Tilly, Ariam, Jet Reno, Philippa Giorgio, Christopher Pike, Spock, Non, Cleveland Booker, Jet Reno, Adira Tal. This was Star Trek Discovery, which began airing on September 24th, 2017, and it has 55 episodes as of this writing. Star Trek Discovery is the triumphant return of Star Trek to television after 12 long years. The first show to star a character who was not the ship's captain, Discovery set out to begin a bold new era in Trek storytelling with serialized continuing stories. The show tells the story of the Federation's history, including the first war with the Klingons, and is continuing on today, telling the story of the Federation in the far, far future, with Michael Burnham finally taking her place as the ship's captain. Again, if I'm mispronouncing some of these names, I apologize. I'm sure I will learn their pronunciation when I actually get to watching some of these. The USS Enterprise, NCC 1701, 2257. Wherever our mission takes us, we'll try to have a little fun along the way too, huh? Make a little noise, ruffle a few feathers. This replica is an example of the design iteration of one of the most famous starships. While the Enterprise's most famous appearance is seen earlier in this museum, this is an example of what the ship looked like in 2257, under the command of Christopher Pike. While James T. Kirk may cast the longest shadow in Starfleet, Pike was a kind and deeply effective captain who led the Enterprise to explore many strange new worlds. It is interesting to see the differences between this vessel and Kirk's Enterprise, and encouragement to all Starfleet officers to always be thinking of the future and how to improve on past designs. Pike, I actually learned that the Cage was the actual original pilot of Star Trek with Pike before they found Shatner and had him cast as Kirk. They were still trying to figure out what to actually pitch as the pilot of the series. And then I saw The Menagerie, and I felt so bad for Pike because I liked Pike in The Cage. I really liked him. And I was glad to hear his character is gonna be getting his show, or his own show. And, which I believe this is actually what it's referencing. Yep, this is the show, Strange New Worlds. This is actually just now, underway. But seeing his fate in Menagerie, I was just heartbroken. But it makes sense, the way that episode went, where he eventually ended up. So I hope, he was able to kind of live happily for the rest of his days, however much longer he lived after that accident, unfortunately. Yuna, aka Number One, I remember her. Spock, Nan, Joseph Mbenga, Christine Chappell, Lon Noonien Singh, Nyota Uhura, Erica Ortegas, and Hammer. This show, Strange New Worlds, began airing on May 5th, 2022, and has 8 episodes in its first season. This is the version of the Enterprise that appeared in Star Trek Discovery. While she is the same ship that appeared in the original series, she has been recreated with a modern design sensibility and current graphical technology. This version of the ship is now the ship of the show Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which tells the story of Pike's Enterprise in the first episodic Star Trek show in 21 years. Strange New Worlds has shown both the challenges and successes of the Federation in an earlier era, given depth to some classic characters, and introduced us to exciting new ones. Next up is another version of the Enterprise. And there's the accolade. Happy Star Trek Day! USS Enterprise NCC 1701F. There's not to make reply. There's not to reason why. There's not but to do and die. Into the valley of death rode the 600. The flagship of Starfleet, the Enterprise F, has served during some of the most tumultuous years in Federation history. From the war with the Klingon Empire to the catastrophic battles of the Iconian War, the conflict with the Zenkathi and the Herc, and the current troubles in the Klingon Empire, it's hard to believe this ship has only been in service for 2 years. In 2409, she launched under the command of Vakul Shan, and has been keeping us safe ever since. We at this museum hope that as long as there is a Federation, there will be a ship to bear the name Enterprise. Vakul Shan, Samuel Winters, Gerald Kov, Tem Inasi, Saville, Philippa Matthias, Kiona, Kirashi O'Brien. This Star Trek Online, which launched on February 2nd, 2010. 185 episodes as of this writing. Keep in mind, what this is referring to is, of course, the quest journal in this game, because every big quest is considered a episode of the show. We hope you have enjoyed visiting the Star Trek Museum and for helping us celebrate more than 50 years of the franchise. We live in one of the greatest eras of Trek, with more shows, comics, novels, and video games coming every day, and it has been an honor to keep that fire burning in Star Trek Online. Thank you for spending the time with us, and here's to many more years of the final frontier. Now this next one, I believe, is going to have some audio, because it's from another recent show. And they actually decided to go ahead and include a bit of audio for the quote that you will see at the beginning here. It's the Stargazer, and some of you may know exactly what this is from.
Well, the Stargazer was my first command. Not this Stargazer, of course. But being here, it feels like my life has come full circle.
There you go, the audio of the great Patrick Stewart as Picard. Because yes, this is the ship in the show Star Trek Picard. One of the newest ships on display in this museum, this version of the Stargazer was instrumental to an important event in recent Starfleet history. Named for the Stargazer that was Admiral Picard's first command, it is fitting that this ship came once again under Picard's direct command during the Borg crisis of 2401. 3 people led the Stargazer through that crisis: Picard, her captain, Cristobal Rios, and the newly promoted Captain 7 of 9. Thanks to their leadership and compassion, the Borg Queen was allowed to coordinate with the Borg and Federation fleets and save millions of lives. While the threat of the Borg did not end entirely that day, it was the first step on a long road to peace. Picard, Rios, 709, Agnes Girardi, Elnor, honorary, and Rafaela Musiker. So this show launched on January 23rd, 2020, and has 20 episodes as of this writing. I've heard various different things about this. I've heard some people like it. I've heard some people did not like this show at all. They thought it was really bad. I'll find out when I get to it eventually. Fans rejoiced in 2019 when it was announced that Patrick Stewart would be returning to his beloved character from Star Trek The Next Generation, Jean-Luc Picard, picking up 30 years after the end of the TNG movies and 10 years before Star Trek Online. The show follows classic characters like Picard and Seven of Nine, and new additions to the canon as well. Picard has been an intellectual show that isn't afraid to dive into the traumatic past of its main characters, and because of that stands on its own 2 feet as more than just a sequel series. The Stargazer is also notable because Star Trek Online's own Hector Ortiz and Thomas Maron had a hand in its design, working with legendary Starship designers John Eves and Doug Drexler. Alright, last one. The USS Cerritos. By the way, you'll notice it gave me this title, Historical Document Expert. That's the title that you get for doing this, along with that accolade. Senior officers. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Hold on.
Oh, senior officers are overrated. They're always stressed out and just yelling about directives. It is better down here where the real action is.
Sorry, I got distracted talking about that. I forgot that there's audio for this quote as well. There you go. The Cerritos is a California-class ship, and one that was assigned in the 2380s to Second Contact Protocol. While other ships in the fleet made first contact with new life forms across the galaxy, ships like the Cerritos were tasked with the no less important duties of bringing these species safely and comfortably into the Federation. Her inclusion among the flagships of Starfleet may seem odd, but the Federation is not simply made by the heroic people whose names you've heard in your textbooks. Every officer in Starfleet plays a vital role in their success, and the Cerritos here is an example of that. Brad Boimler, Beckett Mariner, Devon Attendee, Sam Rutherford, Carol Freeman, Jack Ransom, Tiana, Shax, Andy Billups, and Badgie. This is the show Star Trek Lower Decks, premiered on August 6, 2020, and has 20 episodes as of this writing. Star Trek Lower Decks, the first animated Star Trek show in 46 years, and the first ever pure comedy Star Trek series, has been embraced by fans for its loving send-up of the Trek we know and love. A show that wears its Trek heart on its sleeve, Lower Decks provides a combination of deeply nerdy references, hilarious comedy, and heartfelt storylines, proving it belongs among the canon of more serious Star Trek. And that is the Museum of the History of Star Trek. So, I know that's probably quite a bit to take in, but it's a nice little trip down memory lane and a bit, for perhaps more seasoned fans, and a bit of a nice little history lesson for some of the more up-and-coming fans, or those who are just now getting into Star Trek, like myself. I will happily include myself in that. But I'm very much enjoying it as I'm going along. So, anyways, this is not the only thing I want to go ahead and do for you guys in regards to this special event. There is also something else going on called a temporal recruiting thing, where apparently if you create a character from the TOS timeline, you will be able to get some account-wide rewards. I don't know what exactly those are, but I'm kind of tempted to go ahead and do that myself on my own. But what I want to go ahead and do is go ahead and show you guys the TOS starting area, because there's basically several episodes that take place in the TOS era that is kind of fun when you create a TOS captain before you get brought into this more modern time era. So anyways, what I'm probably going to do is create some separate videos where I show you guys the starting area when you create a captain in the original series timeline. So stay tuned for that, and happy Star Trek Day.